Hi guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mumu and I am so glad that you're here. In today's video, we are going to be doing my September wrap-up for the month. I'm excited to share all the books that I read this month with you guys along with their ratings. So without further ado, let's get started. I actually organized all the books by the genres that I read them by. So I think I'm gonna start with the thrillers just because that's what I read the most of this month. So first up in the thriller category, I read Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, and I gave this book a 5 stars. I loved everything about this book. The solving of the murder was great. I had no complaints about this book. It's very easy to get through, very short, and it was super enjoyable as always. The next book that I read in the thriller category is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. With this book, I wasn't so keen about it because I thought it was gonna be like a good mystery. And don't get me wrong, the plot twist was great. However, it just kind of fell flat for me and I couldn't really connect with a lot of the characters. So that's why I actually rated this book a 3.5 star. Next book that I read in this category is actually The Housemaid by Frieda McFadden. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I was devouring this book like there was no tomorrow, and that is why I gave it a 5 stars. The plot twist was fantastic and it just really got me in the mood to read the following book, which is The Housemaid's Secret. With that being said, I did rate this book a 5 stars because it was very bingeable, the plot twist was great, and it was honestly a super enjoyable book. Next book that I read, I actually read it on my Kindle, and it is The Housemaid's Secret by Frieda McFadden. And this book, I enjoyed it. It wasn't as good as The Housemaid, but I did rate it a 4 stars because I liked the romantic storyline, like the subplot of the romance. And yeah, it was one of those books where I just felt like I had to read it. I wanted to see if it was gonna live up to The Housemaid's expectations. So in the romance category, I have 2 books. The first one is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, and as you can see, I literally loved this book. I have no words for how much I enjoyed this book, and that is why I gave it a 5 stars. I highly recommend this book if you love rom-coms or if you feel like you romanticize every situation of your life. This is literally the book for you. Like, I cannot recommend it enough. It is a young adult romance, but it doesn't take away from like how good the plot is and how good the tropes are and how well written this storyline is. So highly recommend. The following book that I read in the romance category is also The Fine Print, and I believe for The Fine Print I gave it a 4.5 stars because there was something missing in the book. I did love the banter between Zara and Rowan, and I really just enjoyed the entire storyline within of itself. And I really have no complaints. I think the reason why I gave it a 4.5 stars was because I kind of already knew what was gonna happen, and so it was kind of predictable in that sense. But it's still a super juicy romance. If you're wanting to get into romance, the Dreamland Billionaire series is the perfect way to start. The next category is fantasy, and in this category I also only read 2 books. The first one is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, and this book, I didn't know what to expect when I started reading this book, and I want to say that I'm thoroughly surprised. I did rate this book a 4.5 stars just because I felt like the ending could have been more satisfying, and it just kind of left off on a cliffhanger, and that's why I didn't give it 5 stars. I do still have to read The Ballad of Never After and A Curse for True Love, so that will probably be in the upcoming weeks whenever I have a chance. Other than that, it's a great book if you kind of want to get started on fantasy, you don't know where to begin. This book is that book, so highly recommend. The next book in the fantasy category is actually Divine Rivals. And you guys, when I tell you that I loved and absolutely adored Divine Rivals, I have no words for that book. That's how good it was for me. If you're a beginner and you want to get into fantasy, Divine Rivals is the book for you. When I tell you guys that everything about this book was perfect, because it wasn't like so hardcore fantasy where like you wouldn't understand the world and what's happening and the magical aspects of it. Like, it was super simple, straightforward. Like, there was no like external things that were kind of being added on to the plot, if that makes sense. Everything was really centered around these characters and their journeys within this magical realm or this magical world. And you guys, the magical typewriters, the relationship, like the romance between Iris and Roman was chef's kiss. Like, it was so good. It was magical, wonderful, beautiful. I have no words and all the words at the same time to speak about this book, but honestly, I highly recommend it, and that is why I gave Divine Rivals a 5 stars. And it's probably one of my favorite reads of this month. Apart from Better Than the Movies, the final book that I read this month is in the nonfiction genre, and it was The Art of War by Sun Tzu. This book was really good. After I was done reading it, I researched like what the book was about, and honestly, like, a lot of people just quote this book because there's so many like relevant lessons to be learned from The Art of War. Even though it's been translated from, you know, multiple languages and many generations and centuries, I do think that the book is one of those books where you kind of have to read it in order to understand it, and not only that, but in order to apply it. And I feel like it's so applicable in like personal life, professionally, socially. Like, there's so many aspects of the book where when you're reading it, you can apply it to certain scenarios in your life, kind of adjust it so that it makes sense in the modern world. And I think that's what's so cool about The Art of War. And because of that, I automatically gave it a 5 stars because it is nonfiction. It is like a traditional book that has been translated over time, so I didn't want to not give it a rating, so I just kind of gave it 5 stars. These were some of the books that I read in the month of September, and I am so excited to see what I read in the month of October. Looking forward to finding new reads, or maybe just like immersing myself in like a lot of thrillers and like mysteries, because October is a spooky month at the end of the day. So I don't know, maybe that's what I'll do, maybe not. Maybe I'll mood read. We'll see. I have a really busy schedule coming up in October, so bear with me, you guys, bear with me. With that being said, I am so happy that I was able to share with you my September reads. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.